Good evening and welcome to the regular city council meeting for the city of St. Peter, Minnesota. It is Monday, April 14th, 2025. At 7:22, we are called to order. Would all please rise for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We did get started a little bit late tonight because of some technical difficulties. We're not going to have the packet to display on the screen tonight, but the full packet's available on the city website, so I'd encourage folks who are interested to go check it out there. Our first agenda item is the approval of the agenda. Everybody has received a copy of the packet. Are there any revisions or corrections? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of approving the agenda say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The agenda is approved. The minutes from our last meeting appear on pages 5 through 9 of the packet. Are there any revisions or corrections to the minutes? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve as distributed?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor of approval say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The minutes are approved. We have time on our schedule for visitors. Is there a visitor who'd like to speak to the council on any agenda item? Hearing none, we have time for general visitor comments. Is there a visitor who'd like to address the council on another matter? We do have somebody who'd like to address the council. You know the deal. If you would introduce yourself, you've got 5 minutes.
Thank you. Greetings, Mayor Noel and council members. My name is Emily Bruflad, and I live at 317 Grace Street. I'm sure that none of you know who I am. That's my only joke, I promise. Okay. Last week, I reached out to several of you regarding an update to our city code tree list. But for boulevards and, oh yes, sorry, this is really tiny. All right. I reached out for an update about the tree list, both for boulevards and for city spaces and parks. The code indicated that it hadn't been updated since 1990, so I thought it seemed time for a refresh, and there were a handful of invasive trees to take off the list. The city has been wonderfully responsive, and they shared with me the information and new tree lists that you all updated in November of 2024, and let me know that the actual code is only updated a couple times per year. Thank you for taking the time to discuss such an important topic. I reviewed the new lists, and I want to read part of the email I sent in response, edited for clarity and time. I really need to point out with some alarm that you have included the Callery pear, or Pyrus calleriana, on both of these lists. This is a highly invasive tree, and it is being banned for its ability to spread and create thickets. Native forums that I am connected to criticize this tree as one of the worst. Both the USDA and Minnesota DNR list this tree as invasive. From the DNR, Callery pear is a Minnesota Department of Agriculture specially regulated plant. Beginning in 2026, sale of this species will be prohibited, and the species will be designated as a restricted noxious weed. Please do not plant this tree in St. Peter, and replace any that you have planted with urgency. I'm really disappointed that this made it through the vetting process. At a quick glance comparing your list to the DNR, the other allowed invasive is cork tree. I am, however, glad to see things like pagoda dogwood and river birch and others included. More native options like this rather than so many cultivars would be much appreciated. And that's the end of my excerpt from the email. And again, the city response was swift and appreciated, and the Callery pear has been removed from both lists. I want to thank Andrew for reaching out with that information and for taking that action. I would call on you as the council to make that official. If you needed to approve the updated lists in November, please pass a new ordinance that removes both Callery pear and cork tree from our approved lists. I understand that the goal is a diverse canopy, and this is a very laudable goal. Diversity can be achieved by including even more straight native species, and I would encourage you to do so. Resources like the DNR include lists of native plants and invasive plants, and I call on staff to review these lists before making recommendations to the council and to make a commitment to avoid planting anything deemed invasive. It is not worth the long-term consequences to plant something that causes harm in the name of beauty or even diversity. I'll close by saying that trees are long-lived and such a vital part of our city, both aesthetically and within the habitat they support. I think it's important to be mindful of the types of trees we select to reduce problems, to support ecosystems native to our region, and to think of the long-term impact of something that is intended to live for many decades. Since larger projects like Gorman Park are coming up, the time is now to make this ordinance the best that it can be and help St. Peter to better reflect the natural beauty and diversity of our state. Thank you for your time and for all of your work.
Thank you, Emily, and thanks for bearing with us through our technical difficulties. Did you have a question?
I'd just like to just thank Emily for reaching out on this topic and providing the detailed government resources that have the tree lists as far as what are considered invasive species and working working with our staff. And I'd like to commend our staff for addressing it so quickly. I think it's a great show of collaboration, of responsiveness when a citizen reaches out and actually is able to document why it's an issue and we can take action on it, so.
Thanks. Yeah, Todd.
If I could, for members and for Emily, certainly the process for this, as in previous years, is that your tree board meets and makes a designation, and then they make a recommendation to the city council, which then that list then is approved ultimately by the city council. An ordinance change, as you know, it takes a little bit more, but in reviewing this item, it might be the suggestion of staff when we get to that point that the ordinance not list off the trees anymore, but that it point towards a resolution set by the council that establishes that tree list. So that's kind of the process moving forward that you can expect us to pursue unless members tell us don't.
And that group usually meets, is it once a year?
Once a year,
in
typically.
July or August, something?
Yep.
Oh, April, okay.
Yep.
April. I should remember that. Arbor Day and our tree committee.
So now's
Okay.
a reasonable, rational, logical, within regular process time to have this discussion.
Super.
I didn't even know that.
Thanks again, Emily.
Thank you, Emily.
All right. We will move on to approval of the consent agenda. The consent agenda appears on pages 10 through 35 with a resolution on pages, with a resolution on pages 34 and 35. Is there any, let me get to the right page here. Any discussion of any items on the consent agenda? The consent agenda includes the following purchases: MP Asphalt Maintenance of Buffalo, Minnesota, 12,600 pounds of asphalt pavement crack sealer for, well, it's in the packet. A lot of these, we have the following tree worker licenses. There's a list within the packet. All of them are approved May 1st through of 2025 through April 30th, 2026. We have two licenses for Express Lane, which is at 624 South Minnesota. One is a tobacco license, one is a 3-2 beer license. The tobacco license is for the dates of 4/15/2025 through 12/31/2025. The 3-2 beer sale is 4/15/25 through 6/30/25. The following employee appointment: Gail Bodie, an accounting tech, and the schedule of disbursements for March 19th, 2025 through April 9th, 2025. Last call for questions or discussion on items on the consent agenda. Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Johnson?
Aye.
Councilmember Pettis?
Aye.
Councilmember Weisenfeld?
Aye.
Councilmember Sharstrom?
Aye.
Councilmember DeVos?
Aye.
Mayor Noel?
Aye. The resolution is approved. We have no items of unfinished business before us, so we will move on to new business. First item of new business is the Gorman Park Playground Equipment installation, and Pete is here to talk to us about that.
Madam Mayor and City Council, as you remember, a couple of weeks ago at our last City Council meeting, I omitted one of the 4 critical areas that we needed to purchase. And so what we're here tonight to ask you is to allow Flagship Recreation of Lake Elmo, authorize them to install the Phase 1 playground equipment in the amount of $125.16. We followed the city's purchasing policy and guidelines. We requested formal written proposals. One was received. The construction goals were to try to save some funds on this, which we feel we have done through this, and working with the manufacturer through the project coordinator or contractor. There is a resolution on page 38, and I'm available for questions.
Any questions for Pete? We've all talked extensively about Gorman Park and are well aware of the plans. We've talked about them in workshop as well as business meetings, so hopefully this is not a surprise to anybody tonight. I hear no discussion, so the resolution authorizing Flagship Recreation to install playground equipment for Gorman Park Phase 1 is on page 38 of the packet. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Pettis,
Yes, aye.
Councilmember Weisenfeld,
Aye.
Councilmember Sharstrom,
Aye.
Councilmember DeVos,
Aye.
Mayor Noel,
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
The resolution is approved. Next up, street seal coat and trail sealing bid acceptance. Pete.
Madam Mayor and City Council, before you, you have the 2025 seal coating and trail sealing project bid award that we are requesting. As the resolution identifies on page 42, we have several blocks that we're trying to identify. We have a map on page 41 that talks about seal coating. Most of that for streets is on the southern end of St. Peter, with a few collector streets in between. That would be the CRS2 oil that is used for that process. The other oil, the CRS2PD, is for trail sealing. We kind of call it a fog seal in the industry. And really what it's related to is we're going to repair some trails along our routes and seal those up so that they are nice and black and have a little weather resistance on that. Bids came in very good this year again, right around $4 for the 2PD and about $3.79 for the 2. And so what we're asking is that you approve the resolution on page 42.
Thank you. Questions for Pete? Hearing no questions, the resolution awarding bid for 2025 street seal coat and trail sealing project is on page 42. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Weisenfeld,
Aye.
Councilmember Sharstrom,
Aye.
Councilmember DeVos,
Aye.
Mayor Noel,
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson,
Aye.
Councilmember Pettis.
Aye.
The resolution is approved. Next up, bituminous materials and bid acceptance.
Madam Mayor and council members, before you, you have the bituminous materials request. This is strictly product, and we had 2 competitive bidders for this year. OMG, Midwest, Minnesota Paving and Materials supplied the lowest total overall quote based on the estimated volume of materials that we plan to install. This would be either 1/2-inch wear course, 3/4-inch wear course, and a variety of sand mix, which they do not have, but we will probably purchase some of that from the other distributor just because of the making of the materials. And what we'd like to do with this purchase here is set out our street patching and replacement program, and this is part of your regular maintenance schedule that we went through at the last workshop. There is a resolution on page 45 that authorizes staff to purchase both the wear and the base course. If I forgot to mention, the 3/4-inch base is also in this number as well.
Thanks, Pete. Questions for Pete? Hearing no questions, the resolution awarding bid for the 2025 bituminous materials is on page 45 of the packet. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Sharstrom,
Aye.
Councilmember DeVos,
Aye.
Mayor Noel,
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson,
Aye.
Councilmember Pettis,
Aye.
Councilmember Weisenfeld.
Aye.
The resolution is approved. I hope you're comfortable, Pete, because I know you're going to be talking to us about the MPCA grant acceptance for the Kasota lift station.
Yes, we have 2 grant applications. We'll take them one by one here that we applied for after the 2024 flooding that occurred in St. Peter. The MPCA, Minnesota Pollution Control Agency, made some funding available to correct some of these. Our staff had already targeted a couple of these areas, and we had some of this money already budgeted. For repairs, we just were unfortunate enough to have a flood year last year that made the system become overwhelmed just to a large degree. Looking at the first grant, it is a grant for the Kasota Lift Station. We call it the Kasota Lift Station. It's right off the Rabbit Road that serves the city of Kasota. It is our lift station that we own and maintain. Our goal there would be to add a SCADA system, supervisory control and data acquisition. It allows us to be able to see what's going on at that lift station during flooding conditions. As you heard during the workshops, it takes us about an hour and 10 minutes to drive around to visit that lift station during flooding conditions with the different road restrictions. And so what we're trying to do with this is be able to see it on a SCADA system. And it also would allow us to have a generator installed at that lift station for emergency services. So if the power would be lost during that time, emergency generation can be started remotely, and we can operate that facility, keeping the service to Kasota at full service. Hopefully I've explained that enough, and if you have questions, I'm asking you to approve the resolution on page 48, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Pete? Very timely relative to the workshop presentation, so
Yes.
happy to see this show up on our agenda. Hearing no discussion, the resolution accepting the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency implementation grant for Kasota Lift Station improvements is on page 48. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember DeVos,
Aye.
Mayor Noel,
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson,
Aye.
Councilmember Pettis,
Aye.
Councilmember Weisenfeld,
Aye.
Councilmember Sharstrom.
Aye.
The resolution is approved. Next up, MPCA grant acceptance for sanitary sewer and manhole lining.
Madam Mayor and City Council, as we talked, the other grant that we applied for would be to do some lining on some clay tile that's in our system along and adjacent to Highway 169 on the west side of the southbound traffic coming in from St. Peter. Really from St. Julian Street all the way to the north, up past Randall Street, where we pick up sanitary sewer in that northwest quadrant. It's 15-inch sanitary sewer line. It is made out of clay pipe. The structure is sound, but it does have leaking joints and some connections that are bad. So what we'd like to do is put a soft liner in there with a resin-filled line and heat that up and seal those joints off. We're asking that you authorize the grant amount acceptance of $192,280. We anticipate the total project will be about $213,644. The city would be responsible for about 10% of that cost. And there is a resolution on page 51 that we're asking your approval for.
Questions for Pete? I have a question. I'm just curious, what's the life of that lining?
About 50 years.
About 50 years?
So that line has been in there over 55 years now, and so we add another 50 to it. We should be in good shape for quite a while.
Okay. Hearing no other questions, the resolution accepting the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency implementation grant for the 169 sanitary sewer lining is on page 51. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Oh, we have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Mayor Noel,
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson,
Aye.
Councilmember Pettis,
Aye.
Councilmember Weisenfeld,
Aye.
Councilmember Sharstrom,
Aye.
Councilmember DeVos.
Aye.
The resolution is approved.
Thank you very
Pete.
much.
All right, our last item of new business, council out-of-state travel authorization.
Mayor Member, as you know, it is the state law and the council policy that if council members are traveling out of state, that approval must be given by the council for that travel and for payment of that. You also know that past city councils, including yourselves, have talked about the importance of membership in organizations, whether it's Coalition of Greater Minnesota Cities or League of Minnesota Cities, or in this instance, GMG and RETA, that if we're going to participate, we should strive for leadership opportunities and participate. be available and participate in the activities of those groups. And so to that end, GMG and RITA are looking towards an effort establishing and enhancing a relationship with Ireland, which has been in place in our area through a number of different businesses that are located within our region and are articulated in the body of the memo. This would provide an opportunity for Councilmember Kerry Johnson to attend that trip, which is in the middle part of September, generally the 13th through the 19th. The cost for that trip is estimated between $3,500 and $4,000, and the resolution anticipates a not-to-exceed amount of $4,000. Happy to talk more about this. This has been an important objective for RITA moving forward to expand that potential footprint and learn from our neighbors. And again, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have relative to this item.
Questions for Todd? Carrie, anything you'd like to add? Yeah.
Comments. I think that right now, more than ever, establishing and fostering positive relationships abroad is really important. Some of you went to the RITA annual meeting last year, and an Irish company called Lidis was there presenting. So in addition to it being learning from this incredible region in Ireland and their economic development work, it is about fostering relationships, relationships that are already in the works, but doing more of that in person. And I think having representation from outside the Mankato, North Mankato area is really important on this trip. Not just as in my role as chair of RITA, but just ensuring that we have that we're able to bring people from the region to attend this trip. And so I have extended invitations as well to Stavis, a few of the manufacturing industries and bankers in the area too, to see if there's interest. So would be more than just me going, hopefully, from St. Peter. So.
Well, thanks for all that you do as chair of RITA. St. Peter benefits from RITA in really direct ways, and so I appreciate the work that you do in that capacity.
And I'll abstain from the vote.
Okay. Any questions or discussion? Hearing nothing further, the resolution authorizing elected official travel is on page 54 of the packet. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Pettis,
Aye.
Councilmember Weisenfeld,
Aye.
Councilmember Sharstrom,
Aye.
Councilmember DeVos,
Aye.
Mayor Noel,
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Abstain.
The resolution is approved. Moving on to reports, I have just one report item tonight, which is a proclamation for Arbor Day and Arbor Month. Whereas Minnesota forest treasures are a significant attraction to early settlers because of their usefulness and the beautiful environment they protected, and whereas trees are an increasingly vital resource in Minnesota, enriching our lives by purifying air and water, helping to conserve soil and energy, serving as recreational settings, providing habitat for wildlife of all kinds, and making our cities more livable. And whereas Arbor Day was founded on April 10th, 1872 by J. Sterling Morton at Nebraska City, Nebraska, and whereas in 1876 Minnesota became the 4th state to adopt Arbor Day, and whereas the citizens of St. Peter have proudly participated in the celebration of Arbor Day and Arbor Month for many years, now, therefore, I, Shannon A. Noel, Mayor of the City of St. Peter, Minnesota, do hereby proclaim April 25th, 2025 as Arbor Day and May 2025 as Arbor Month in the City of St. Peter, and encourage citizens to participate in tree planting activities in their homes and businesses. We will move on to reports of council members. Is there any council member who'd like to make a report at this time? Reports from our city administrator.
Mayor members, the first one that I have listed on here, well, the only one that I have listed on here is really recognizing a couple of different items, one of which is to recognize John your Recreational Leisure Services Director. He has been selected to present with Recreation Director from Pittsboro, North Carolina, and Recreation Director from Hilton, Parma, New York, in the National Recreation and Park Administration Conference and do a presentation on building professional family and networking with intention. So I want to congratulate him on that. That's a super cool thing to be recognized at that level. And even as nice as that, I want to ask John to come up because I want him to talk about a couple of awards that the rec department will be receiving. And you're going to have some other people visit you, so this is kind of a preview. They'll be coming maybe in a couple months to visit with you. But John, if you would mention the 2 awards that you and your team are receiving or will be receiving coming up.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Prafke, Madam Mayor, and members of council. This is really exciting. I know it was mentioned that these are recreation awards, but as so many of these things with the city are, they are a team effort. And the awards we are getting tonight are for a couple different initiatives that we have worked with a number of different people on, another number of different teams, but I'll start first just by kind of explaining Minnesota Recreation and Park Association is our professional association with almost 1,000 members across the state of Minnesota. Each year they award what they call their awards of excellence for new or modified initiatives that signify excellence in the field of parks and recreation. This year, as Mr. Prafke said, we were awarded 2 for the nominations that we submitted. I will recognize that the first one took a lot of work from a lot of different people, a couple of members of council, Pete as well, and his team. It was the Parks and Recreation Master Plan that was accepted last year. I went ahead and submitted that on behalf of all of us, and we were selected. So that is really exciting to see that hard work that not only staff and the council, but the Parks and Recreation Board put into that document to help guide us into the future for our recreational amenities here in St. Peter. The second one was for our library efforts and our teen advisory board and volunteer programs within the library, recognized for their impactful use of volunteers to accomplish goals and enhance the quality and scope of recreation opportunities in our community. So this was under the volunteer initiatives that MRPA gives these awards out for. We're really, really excited about these. These are new initiatives that our newer Assistant Library Supervisor, Tegan Watkins, has really spearheaded and really created and pushed through as in her limited time here of about 7-8 months. And so these continue to gain momentum, and to see these recognized. To quote our library supervisor, Brenda McHugh, as she was preparing a draft to give to me before we submitted, she goes, I knew this was really cool stuff, and then I started writing it down and realized how cool it was. And so to see even the library staff go, wow, this is really making an impact, was very cool. The final piece of this is that come the end of summer or early fall, a member of the Minnesota Recreation and Park Association Awards Committee would like to come to a council meeting and present the plaques to the council. And with your permission, I'd like to invite the staff as well as Pete's team to be a part of that ceremony. But as we get that out, I'll work with Mr. Prafke to line up a date to bring them to a future council meeting.
Really exciting stuff. I mean, I've been a fan of our library since I moved to St. Peter and my kids were little, and we were there every Saturday morning without fail. But also to recognize the hard work that went into the planning process for our master plans. We're really lucky to have such wonderful parks in St. Peter and staff that really, not all the great stuff we see in St. Peter only happens because we have great staff. It doesn't happen by accident. So thanks to everybody who contributed to those initiatives.
So, Madam Mayor, normally what we do is we certainly would congratulate John on that, speaking and working with some peers throughout the country at the national conference, but the 2 awards with John's team and Pete's team, we normally give them a little bit of a hand for sure. All right, John, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, John.
Madam Mayor, that's all that I have for you for this evening.
All right, if there's nothing further, motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. We are adjourned. Thanks, everybody.